Picture this. You're sitting in your chair watching a Nintendo Direct and they announce there is one last trailer. So you get excited. The blood starts to pump. The trailer begins to play. Electricity's in the air. What could this be? And then you see some jabroni play a flute while spouting some Metal Gear Solid existentialism as he fights a cat girl. This is definitely a JRPG, people. Wait a minute though. She's holding dual rings. Well, wait a minute, that's the weapon that Nia uses from... Oh my god, it's Xenoblade! You're excited, one of your favorite series is returning. Okay, cool, let's go! The world looks massive and breathtaking. A good opportunity for you to return to Xenoblade 1, which you have never beaten yet. You see some really cool set pieces and some giant robots. Your curiosity is piqued. Looking good, people. But as the months go by and the trailers start to come out, you notice something. It seems like you're going to start out the gate with about 6 party members. Well, why is that strange? Well, the other games in the series are really well known for their characters and they introduce them to you one after the other over the course of the game, building up a cast of characters you really care about. And it seems like for 3, the formula has shifted. It's pivoted a little bit. Okay, it's a different approach, but will it work? Or will they just not get enough development for you to care about any one of them individually like you did with the other characters? It's a weird worry to have, sure, but I'm not saying it's rational or anything. Just, when I went into the game, I wondered if they could actually catch lightning in a bottle again. And funnily enough, in retrospect, I'm not even sure if I had this worry or concern until after I returned to Xenoblade 1 on stream and beat that game. Both games had such a strong foundation of characters, and now we were essentially starting all over again at 0 to build up new ones. It's one of those things I tend to have with series that don't continue with a cast from before, or when they change protagonists. In terms of storytelling and consuming stories, I tend to be more focused on the characters than anything else. So while it may be the same series, somewhere in my mind it feels like a completely new one. Like I had all this development for this other character or group of characters, now gotta start all over again. Will I like them as much as the others? I like the cast from 1 and 2 so much that it's hard to imagine I will. But if they pull it off, they somehow manage to do it, well then hey, that's an easy way to get in my top 10 games of all time list. But I tend to favor optimism and have an optimistic approach, unless I'm given a reason not to. And Monolith hadn't given me a reason to doubt their storytelling capabilities, so I sit back, play through the franchise again, and prepare for 3 to release. I stream the entire story of 3, and I do some side content off camera, and very early on, like by the end of the first chapter, so I'm watching the crew fight each other as Vandam activates the stone, and then the scene afterwards, when the world turns against them, and they group back up, realizing they're going to put their differences aside to work together. Back of my mind, I'm like, dang, why did I worry at all? Because, you see, Monolith have this gift. Now, actually, that's not how I want to phrase it. They have trained themselves and honed their narrative constructing capabilities to such a point where I would call them experts at their craft. By the end of the first freaking chapter, the first chapter, not the second, not the third, not halfway through the game, the first chapter, first handful of hours, I liked all 6 of the main characters. How the hell did they manage it again? How the hell am I hooked already? And it ties into a video that I released a few days ago on the formula of Xenoblade Chronicles. What Monolith are so good at is not just developing characters. Developing characters is hard, don't get me wrong, but it's doable. What Monolith managed to become experts at is introducing characters, and introducing them in such a way where you immediately care about them, and then they reel you in Jeremy Wade style with the development. And how do they manage this? Well, they lean on their strengths, the personality of each of these characters. You don't have to have a lot of backstory to care about a character. What you need to care about is the character themselves in their present moment and where you are in the story. And what they manage to do is make them so big, so bold, so unique, while still being reminiscent of characters from previous games in the series, where your mind, either consciously or subconsciously, is able to draw a connection there, while also having those characters stand on their own 2 feet and be interesting, unique enough to draw you in immediately. Just look at their weapons. Noah has a sword very reminiscent of the Monado, or an Aegis blade. It's not one of those 2, but the coloring and the overall design screams to you as the player, hey, this is a Xenoblade protagonist. You have the big dumb-ish friend who uses a giant weapon. Okay, let's Lance time. You have the supporter who uses a sniper rifle. They do some pretty cool moves. Okay, people, we're cooking with oil here. I'm liking what we're seeing. What about the Agnes crew? Okay, you have a character very reminiscent of Nia from Xenoblade 2, who uses the dual rings. Okay, okay. What about Tyon? Ooh, he uses these things called Mondo, which are these little, I don't even know if they're paper, but they're talismans, right? And he has a plethora of these things, and he's able to control them and almost bend them to his will, and use them to attack or defend. Okay, it's a very unique idea. It's interesting. I like what I'm seeing here. Okay, Senna, what do you got? A giant freaking hammer. Okay. Kind of similar to their version of Lance. Okay, I'm liking it. Noah's the stoic protagonist. The Lance is kind of similar to Rhine, with his personality. Big, bold, explosive. Scene almost draws itself towards him. Uni's confident, but she's a little bit comedic as well. Mio is serious and by the numbers. Why is she doing this? It's her duty. Kevers are the enemy. Kill Kevers. Okay, makes sense. Tyon has that cocky intellectual archetype. He has the glasses that you know at some point he had to push up while doing these cool maneuvers with his Mondo. Senna is super strong and has a giant hammer. Okay, she's a good foil for Lance. Tyon's a good foil for Uni. Mio's a good foil for Noah. You pit the two cocky characters together, you put the two strong characters together, and then you have the polar opposites put them together. Noah doesn't want to fight, he wants to find some kind of middle ground. Mio has no interest in that. Okay, so right off the bat, in the immediate first fight, with these 6 characters, you already have them established into certain roles, with certain characteristics, certain personality traits, because every line of dialogue is used to make you care, to grab you in and make you care about that character. They are very efficient with the lines of dialogue, especially in the early game here in Xenoblade 3, where each line of dialogue either, and sometimes does both of these things, advances the narrative, advances the plot, or adds personality and character to each of these characters. Adds a bit of uniqueness and charm to them. And as Chapter 2 starts, I'm just like, where is this game gonna go from here? I have no idea. We're gonna reach the sword probably at some point. Something's gonna happen. Drawing a blank. All I knew was I wanted more time with these characters. So the way that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 introduced their characters is so fundamentally different from what we got in Xenoblade 1, Xenoblade X, and Xenoblade 2, where you would be introduced to a small cast of characters, but over time, more would be added to your party. And they kind of do that in a similar vein with the hero system, but it's not the same, really, because Xenoblade 3 starts you off very early on with the main party, and that main party will accompany you for the rest of the game. They'll experience laughter together, heartache, day-by-day events and occurrences. They'll be happy for each other. They'll root for each other. They'll drag each other out of the mud. They will learn to care for each other. They'll put their differences aside and come together and care for each other. And you want to know the funny thing is? I think the ending of Xenoblade 3 would only work with these characters, because the ending is all about learning to let go and step into the future, not be caught up in this momentary happiness. And if you didn't care about the characters or their motivations or their own happiness, then it wouldn't hit nearly as hard as it does. You wouldn't care. Move into the future, stupid. But you do care about these characters, because they took the time to introduce them in different ways to make you immediately care about them, as they've shown them to you for the first time on screen. And over the course of the game, they develop on that. Flesh out those inter-party relationships and dynamics. Add backstory to them. Sometimes they'll focus on one character or 2 characters, or 3 at a time. Maybe they'll focus on the Kevers group or the Agnes group. But at the end of the day, they'll give you development for each of those characters. And they'll make you care about each of them until they all feel different, they're all unique, and they're all developed. And at the end of the game, they all care for each other. And you, for instance, care about those characters. And you're rooting for them to find their own happiness. But it's not meant to be within the confines of Xenoblade 3, within the confines of Aeonios. And for that parting to work so well, for that ending to land, for the message to be received as loud as it was, you need a cast of characters like that. Because having a cast of characters come together despite their differences, learning to work together, to care about each other, and then not wanting to part, wanting to stay in this world of Aeonios, this endless now, to flow along this eternal cycle, that's how you make the ending work, people. That's how you make it land. That's how you make it strong and impactful and meaningful. Not only for the characters to feel emotional, but also for you, the player, to feel emotional. For you to root for them despite knowing, hey, this isn't meant to be. And they part go back to their own worlds after saying over and over and over again, kind of like a game of whack-a-mole, that we will meet each other again. And the game leaves off with Noah hearing the Agnes off-scene tune, walking away and literally disappearing into the void, and then the final save screen is Mio desperately holding on to any memory she can and saying that we will meet again. End of the game. As I walked away from Xenoblade 3, I realized that the biggest concern, the biggest worry that I walked into the game with ended up being what, in my opinion, is the strongest pillar of Xenoblade 3, the characters. I think I've realized Monolith has just proven something here. They can now do two different types of stories. They can introduce characters in a way similar to Xenoblade 1X and 2, where they'll give you a small handful of characters at the start, and then add more to the main party as the game goes on, carefully adding characterization and development for all these characters, one by one introducing them to you, and making you care about them. Or, they can say, screw it, here's the characters. You're going to care about them immediately, and we're going to make you care about them even more as the game progresses. As we look into the future for Xenoblade Chronicles, right, and ask ourselves what comes next, Lord knows I've made my share of theory videos for what Xenoblade 4 and the DLC can be. I kind of just come back to the same conclusion. Even if what I want to happen is wrong, I trust them well enough to just write a compelling story, to introduce a compelling cast of characters. They have not given me a reason to doubt them. It's a pretty good place to be. How many other series can you really say that, where they haven't given you one reason to doubt them? Honestly, here's to the future. Here's to the future of what Xenoblade will put out next. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps support future content, and I greatly appreciate it. And while you're down there, hit the bell icon to be notified for when I upload in the future. I'm Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming. Hope you all had a great day. Stay safe, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.